for joining me for another episode of What the Fuck Paranormal Naked Bigfoot. I am your host, Mike the Naked Bigfoot. Again, I'm very happy to have everybody on with me tonight. Oh shit, I had a brain freeze this early. Tonight's chat is going to be concerning the topic of dreamwalking, which is both fun and terrifying. But we'll get into that after I do my disclaimers. Hey, Chris, thank you for joining tonight. Good to see you, man. You may be my only person tonight. I think some of my previous chats have left a bad taste in some people's mouths. Yet I still persist. I still am here, as always. If you're wondering what this is right here, everybody, this mark right here is that I literally get bitten by a fucking spider every day. Every day a spider bites me somewhere on my body. And this is today's spider bite. It never fucking fails. A spider will bite me at some point during the day. I don't know why. I've not given it a lot of thought, except for being pissed. The only thought I have is being pissed off at every spider in existence. Because apparently they don't care for me. Oh, thank you, Chris. You're being too kind. But before I begin, of course, the disclaimers. All views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the Naked Bigfoot, myself. I am not here to change your mind, warp your perspective, damage your belief in religion, or anything like that. I am here to both inform and entertain. But if you happen to leave from watching any one of my shows curious about the world around you, especially concerning the supernatural, the paranormal, or the preternatural, then I feel that my job has been accomplished. And I do encourage everybody to go out and explore this beautiful and crazy world that's around us, but to do so safely and sanely. Also, there will be naughty words that are spoken. You may have already heard a few already. It's just part of my parlance. It just comes out of my mouth. It's not done to shock. It just happens. So if you have any small children in the room that you don't wish to be exposed to the F-bomb, which is something I frequently use, or any other vulgar word, then please have them leave the room now, or wear headphones as you view my show. It might not be a bright idea to broadcast my show on your television set in the family room with everybody sitting there watching. Now, some of my episodes are family friendly, but most of them are not. Oh, Chris, you're kind, but you know and I know that I cuss like a sailor. So I do try to curb my tongue when I'm on other people's shows as a guest, as a courtesy, but it's hard. Especially I get worked up fast and the words pop out of my mouth. And if you find yourself offended by any of the curse words that do pop out of my mouth, I make no apologies. This show might not be for you. But I hope you do stick around. Also, we play a drinking game on my show. Anytime you hear me say in some form or another, that's a story for another day or that's a story for another time, please take a sip of your adult beverage of choice. If you do not imbibe adult beverages, please take a sip of your non-alcoholic beverage of choice. As always, more than likely you will be drunk as fuck by the end of this episode. So do not drink and drive whatsoever. Do not drink and drive. With that, real quick, let's do a little bit of. I just want to do a few, a little bit of housekeeping. I am very happy to announce that one of my favorite shows that I've done, which was on the Skinwalker and Nagloshi, has over 100 views so far. I'm very happy and proud of that precedent. I'm glad that 100 plus people enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed telling the tale that night. And also, another show which I'm not terribly proud of, Sex and the Paranormal, is quickly getting close to the 100 view mark. I don't know why, but people are watching that episode. Again, Sex and the Paranormal. Feel free to check it out. Just to let everybody know, it is quite possibly one of the most offensive episodes I've ever done. Just thinking about the shit that I said that night still cracks me up. I refuse to go back and rewatch the episode. I'm not ashamed of it per se, but it went from me being incredibly serious like I wanted it to being painfully not serious. But I was able to pull it back and end it on a relatively serious note. The episode Sex and the Paranormal. Watch it if you dare, and definitely don't watch it in mixed company, and do not watch it with children in the room. It's an episode you do not wish to put on your television in the family room with, grandma and grandpa and aunts and uncles and your pastor who's visiting for dinner. You don't want to watch that episode with them in the room. Alrighty. Again, I want to thank everybody who will tune in on tonight's episode. And may not see the live, but I appreciate those who do watch it after the fact. I do have a number of people who can't make it because I do my shows late in the evening on the East Coast here. I do it at 9 o'clock at night. A lot of people, don't have a chance to watch it. But one of the main reasons why I do my show at 9 o'clock at night, number one, my house gets quiet at around 9 o'clock at night. There's not as much activity. And the other reason is some of the subject matter that I do talk about is definitely it can bother some people a great deal. So, but they still want to watch the episode. So I do it late in the evening. So, some people already have their kids put to bed already, and they don't have to expose them to my foul mouth or some of the more graphic things that I discuss on my show. Again, it's not gratuitous. It just happens to be the focus of my show and some of the things that come out of my mouth. All right. On with tonight's episode. Okay. We're going to talk about something that's very, very dear to me, something that is very personal to me, as most all my shows, revolve around things that are personal to me. But that is dream walking. Dream walking, I'll do a quick, okay, this is how we're going to talk about it tonight. I'm going to do a quick definition of what dream walking is. Talk about it being, how it's used, in other cultures. And then, as always, we'll end with me talking about my personal experiences with it, which everybody I know just enjoys listening to my personal experiences. Sometimes they're fun, but most of the time they're damn right scary. So thank you all for sticking around for that part. All right, dream walking. Dream walking is, I'm going to say, loosely defined because everybody has their own perspective when it comes to dream walking, their own definition of dream walking. But what dream walking generally um, is a person leaving their body, their spirit, their whatever you want to call it, their spirit, their soul, their astral self, their mind, even, um, that they exit their body and enter a world, the world between worlds. The Some people call it the astral plane. Some people call it the spirit world or spirit dimension. Um, the astral plane, for example, people who call it the astral plane, uh, when they enter the astral plane is actually um, nearly identical to our world, um, except for it's slightly off. And it's more spiritual. It has more spirits, both human, once human, non-human, and unhuman spirits that exist within that world, both the astral and the spirit world. The same thing with the spirit world. Most people who dream walk into the spirit world enter the spirit world. Um, it's nothing like their world around them. Um, Astral travel is very similar to this. Is very similar to it. Um, but I'm going to tell you in a moment what the big difference between astral traveling and dream walking. Um, Nearly every culture and every belief system and faith has some form of dream walking in it. Um, the Aboriginal people of Australia, for example, um, they believe in the concept of dream time, which is nothing. It is the nothing in which the world is constantly being made from. Every new thing that exists that comes into being in the world comes from this massive dream time, uh, and they are able to enter the dream time, and they're able to witness the creation of things, the creation of the world around them, um, and also use the dream time to access different points in their own personal timeline, uh, in other parts of the world and possibly even other dimensions. Um, there are Tibetan monks who use prayer and meditation to enter a trance and go walk into their own version of the dream time. They do it seeking enlightenment and seeking answers from the higher spirits that they believe in that exist um, in this spirit dimension they enter. Uh, just to give you a few examples, like I said, all cultures, Native American cultures here in the United States, South American cultures, you name it. Everybody has some variation on dream walking. The big difference, I'm glad you brought that up, Chris, about astral projection and astral traveling. Mm, this is going to go into what I was about to say about what the big difference between how people enter dream walking and how they're able to dream walk. Some people, um, and you've heard me talk in some previous episodes of how my belief and based on my research um, on psychics and psychic mediums is that true psychics and true psychic mediums, um, it's something that's something in their bloodline, something they inherited from their parents, and they inherited from their parents before them. It's found in specific bloodlines here in the world. And to them, to these blessed or cursed bloodlines, um, one of the natural gifts that they inherit as being a psychic or a psychic medium is being able to enter the dream time naturally. It takes very little for them to push themselves out of their body and walk into the spirit world. Now, there are other people and other cultures and other belief systems. This is not so. They have to go through rituals to be able to do it with it. That involves a great deal of prayer, great deal of meditation. I almost said medication. You'll understand in a minute why I said that. And by the time they're done with their prayers and their meditation, they've entered an altered state of being, and then they're able to leave their body and walk the spirit world around them. And then there are those who need, um, that's one way of doing it. Yes, Chris, I've heard of people doing that. I have my own theory on people who dream walk and meet entities that they appear to the dream walker as aliens or extraterrestrials. Notice how I phrase that they appear to them as that. That's one of the things you have to be cautious about as a dream walker. You have to be incredibly careful about who and what you meet when you're doing your dream walking, and then how you and understanding that they're showing you what they want to show you, and what they want you to believe while you're there. And the trick is peeling back their mask and seeing through their truth or seeing through their lie. And I'll leave it at that. I'll probably come back and revisit that idea in a moment. But that's a story for another day. A lot of people in different cultures, and this is actually true in the voodoo religion as well. They require an herbal method to enter an altered state of being, to alter their spirit enough to where it can leave their body and walk the spirit world. And usually this concoction they do can be taken. Sometimes it's something that is drunk. Sometimes it's something that is smoked. Sometimes it's something that injected. But 99.9% of the time, it's completely natural and herbal that they do it with it. In the religion of in voodoo, we have one of the ways. Yeah, you're going to hear about some of my herbal drug use very soon too. um, in the religion of voodoo, um, we actually concoct a, um, a tea that is made through a variety of dried mushrooms, um, several herbaceous plants, um, and yeah, I'm going to admit to this. It's something I don't tell a lot of people. Snake venom. It can be any poisonous snake. And usually, in the United States, it's usually rattlesnake venom, or in the deep south, it's just not rattlesnake venom. It is the venom of whatever poisonous snake is nearby, whether it's a moccasin or a copperhead. where they can extract the venom from the snakes. They milk the snakes and extract fresh venom to use. Um, it's very tricky. If you can't die from ingesting snake venom, even in large doses. Um, and that shit's trippy too, I'll tell you what. The only time there have been recorded deaths of ingesting snake venom for the purpose of dreamwalking have come where people who have had gum disease or lesions in their mouth or lesions in their throat or lesions in their stomach or intestines, and the snake venom never gets an opportunity to be digested and metabolized. It will go through these lesions and poison the person. And 9 times out of 10, when they ingest it that way, and it does find its way into their bloodstream, they've died. Um, I know of 2 people who have died that way. um, but before I knew that it was a common practice, um, and Vudan, before I became a voodoo priest, a Hungan. Ooh. Ooh, I got really dizzy there for a minute, guys. I got really dizzy for a minute there. It's like the whole room, it's really weird. It's like the whole room shifted. The perception of the room shifted for a moment. It's like my room just blurred around me very slightly and made me incredibly dizzy when it happened. Um, Something is afoot. I don't know what. Um, wow, that was really, really fucking interesting. Wow, that is really, really interesting. It's gotten very, very cold. And you have to remember, I'm cold natured anyway. I get cold easy anyway, and I get hot really easy too. It's like somebody just dropped me in the middle of an igloo. And I'm just fucking crazy dizzy right now. Something's happening. I don't know what it is. But let's go on with the show tonight. I'll keep you in the loop if anything else weird happens while I'm in here. uh, by the way, for those who are wondering, this is one of the masks that I use in my voodoo ceremonies. And for some reason, I felt compelled to reach over there and pick this up. I have a small altar here beside my bed that I keep my masks on, for those who are wondering. And I felt compelled to pick this mask up just now. This is a representation of Shango, Papa Shango, um, who is a might powerful Loa. But I had a need to pick his mask up just now. That was just fucking weird. Maybe I'll show the rest of y'all my masks another day. If you're interested, we'll do a show on masks and how they're used in different faiths. Let's get back to dream walking. I am so off subject right now. But like I said, something really fucking weird happened. Fuck, Eddie, fuck. Oh, shit. Yeah, my camera is acting weird. I hope nothing odd is happening tonight, and odd in the preternatural, supernatural, or paranormal way tonight. I just don't have the strength right now to deal with it, to deal with it properly. So whatever's going on, if something is taking advantage of my weakened state today, and my weakened constitution today, um, it's just not going to end well for it when I do get enough strength back to work up something, work up my mojo on them. Okay, let's get back to the subject at hand. I've gotten off topic for way longer than normal. Wow. I swear to everything that I believe in, it feels like my masks are all watching me right now. I have 14 masks in this room. And I swear to God, I am not on anything right now, but it feels like they're all looking at me. Every last one of them is looking at me. It's a weird fucking feeling that every one of these masks, or look, is looking at me through these masks. Um, I've never had that feeling before. It's something new. That might be a story for another day. Um, okay, dream walking. I was talking about rattlesnake venom. Yeah, I think something is watching me through these masks right now. Call it me being a paranoid fuck. Um, but I swear, Chris, it really does feel like I've been being followed all day today. That I went down to our one of our storefronts in downtown here in Blue Ridge and Main Street, where we have our shop, where we have our retail, one of our retail shops at, I should say. And I got the distinct feeling that I was being watched by people. And when I did look at people that were staring at me, and I wasn't wearing like a fucking horns on a cape or anything. I was dressed as normal as I possibly can dress in. That it felt like when they were looking at me, the people that were looking at me, they weren't that person. That something was using their eyes to look at me with, if that makes sense. Something was using their senses to view me, using their eyes to look at me. And it's been like that all fucking day long. Even with the animals that I've seen, the few squirrels that I've seen that have stopped and acted outside of their nature, and the birds, especially, oh God, especially the crows today, have been acting outside of their nature. Just very quietly sitting on the fence and staring at me. And again, I got the distinct feeling that it wasn't them that was looking at me, that something was using them to view me. I don't know. I can't explain it. It has absolutely nothing to do with dream walking. It has zero to do with dream walking tonight. But if you watch my show, I talk about all kinds of shit on my show. Not necessarily the topic of on hand for the evening. I do digress a great deal. Okay, let's get back to dream walking, guys. Let me get my paranormal paranoia and make it go away. You just saw the notification. Hey, super horror show. Good to see you tonight. You missed some good parts to the show already. I advise you to rewind it. You might find the last couple of minutes interesting because I got off on a tangent about me being watched today by something that I can't quite explain. Oh, If you rewind it, you actually get to see one of my favorite masks. Well, favorite uh, that I showed on the chat earlier. Okay, rattlesnake them. Before I became a Hungan, when I was exploring the supernatural, paranormal, and preternatural world around me throughout the United States, um, I ran across a lot of people who were shamans, um, minor practitioners of various uh, magical arts, priests of some of the older faiths that predated Christianity. And I met one in particular who explained to me, as I explained earlier, the concept of dream walking that I explained earlier. Who explained it to me, and I thought that was really fucking awesome that I wanted to give it a try. So he prepared a tea for me to drink to experience my first dream walk. Um, I'll never forget it. You never forget dream walks, just to let you know. It's actually when you are dream walking, the experience is imprinted on your racial memory and on your soul. It's everything you experience dream walking. You cannot forget. You cannot unexperience it, and you sometimes can have flashbacks to it. It's 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 not for everybody. Just let me put that out there. Just not for everybody. Okay? It's for the bravest and most adventurous of souls. Well, the tea that he made me. Um, he used, and I recognized most of the herbs that he used in it. He used henbane, which you might remember. Super Horror Show, you as one of your shows, you were talking about henbane. He used henbane, an amanita mushroom, dried, that he had ground up for the tea. He used well, it's a type of American hemlock, but he used the root, which is the most potent part of it. And he added a generous dose of rattlesnake venom to the tea. And he told me, we were sitting in a room, had no furniture in it. We were sitting, no furniture, no carpet, nothing. It was an old house, old, hardwood floors, whole 9 yards, big tall windows. He covered all the windows with black cloth, let no light in. He had one candle between both of us that he lit. Again, no furniture whatsoever in the room. He locked the door, and I asked him why he was locking the door, because of course I didn't know this guy for very long, so I didn't want him to turn my genitalia into wind chimes um, and make a lampshade out of my skin. So I got a little worried there for a moment when I saw him lock the door and sat down. But as he explained it to me was, if my body, when I was out of my body and my body was there, and if my body decided to get up and walk out, it wouldn't be able to go far, and I would be able to find it easily to get back into it. That's how he explained it to me, why he locked the door and covered the windows so my body wouldn't be tempted to jump out of a window. Believe it or not, that did not dissuade me from from drinking the tea. So I drank the tea. It was the most foul shit that I had ever put in my mouth. Um, it actually had a vague citrusy taste to it, but he explained to me later that it was from the rattlesnake venom that gave it a citrus piquant flavor to it. Uh, he told me to wait for it, just to sit there and wait for it. That I would know when it was time for me to step out of my body, when my spirit was ready to step out of my body. So we sat there for about 20 minutes after drinking it, and I felt tingly warm. It started from my feet and went all the way up to the tip of my nose. I started having double vision, but it was a weird double vision. It's like I had a second set of eyes over top of my natural real eyes, and I saw two sets of everything in front of me when I was looking through these two sets of eyes. I saw two of him, two of everything around me. The room was slightly tilted. It looked like I was standing in the middle of two rooms. And I heard him say, "It looks like you're ready." He said, "Take your hands and put them on the floor behind you." Shh. So I put my hands behind my back, hands flat down on the wood behind me, and I pushed. And when I pushed, um, I left my body. My body pushed itself out. My spirit pushed itself out of my body. And I was standing up. But when I pushed myself out of my body and I stood up, I was no longer in this room and he was no longer sitting in front of me. But I was in the woods, in the forest. And it just wasn't any forest. It was a forest filled with snakes. Um, there were snakes hanging from the trees. There were snakes slithering on the ground. Uh, Snakes absolutely everywhere, every shape, size, and color imaginable, hissing and rattling and thrashing around me. But I wasn't afraid. Um, I started walking, and as I was walking, the snakes that were in front of me parted, and there was a path in front of me. And I walked down, started walking down. I felt the need to walk down that path. I saw a room at the end of that path. In the woods. It was like I was looking through a door into somebody else's house at the end of this pathway. So I kept walking till I got to the door, and it was a door. I walked through the threshold to the door, and I was in someone else's house. The someone else's house that I was in was the house that I was born in back in the Appalachian Mountains. And when I walked into that room and I turned around, the door was gone. It was just a wall space there. The path that I had walked that was surrounded by snakes was gone. And I was now walked in a room. But this room, a lot of homes in the mountains, for people who don't know this, um, sometimes there were beds in the sitting room. Uh, where at night, if you had company, they could sleep in the beds in the sitting room. And there weren't a lot of walls in the houses, except for in the main bedrooms. They try to divide them off from the rest of the house. The kitchen and the dining area and the sitting room were usually wallless, and you could walk all the way through. It was like a giant lodge. And that's how the house that I was born in and spent a lot of my life in was there. But everything in the house was gray. And I heard somebody laughing, and it sounded like me. And I saw myself much younger, much younger, come running around the corner of leaving the back of the house and coming around into the kitchen. And it was me that ran in, that was laughing, like somebody was chasing him and they were playing. And then I saw who was chasing me as a child. And it was my little spiritual companion. They were playing a game of tag. She wasn't laughing. It's just me that was laughing. She wasn't laughing. Um, she had one of her cold smiles as usual, as she bounced along behind me as a child and was playing behind me. And then she stopped and she looked right at me. And I could still hear the young me behind me laughing away and, skipping away and laughing away. But she stopped and turned around and looked right at me. And she said, "It looks like you learned something else, something new." And I looked at her. I spoke, but no words came out. But she understood what I was saying, that I was acknowledging that I was saying yes to her when I said that. Amy. And she turned her back on me and was walking away. But as she was walking away, she said, "Be careful. I will not always be with you when you walk." And she walked out of the room. When she walked out of the room, the house literally around me faded away, and I was standing in the forest again. I turned around, hoping that maybe the path was behind me, and lo and behold, the path was behind me. And it led back, and at the end of that path, again, it looked like a door that somebody had opened, and it led back into the room that I started out in. And there I was, with my eyes closed, legs crossed. The guy that I was with, he was sitting in front of the candle with his legs crossed as well and his eyes closed, and there was my body. I walked back down the path, of course, surrounded by snakes, still surrounded by snakes, but this time they were taking a keen interest in me. They were watching me. And as I walked, they filled the path in behind me, and they were following me back to my body. And I went back into the room, and my friend, I'll call him my friend because he became my friend, he opened his eyes and he looked at my body, and then he turned around and looked straight at me. My spiritual self looked straight at me, and he said, "Now it's time for you to get back into your body." He said, "Just walk up and sit down in your body. It's time for you to come home." And I did. I sat in my body. And when I opened my eyes up, my physical eyes up, I just had this huge intake of breath. It's like the entire time I was out of my body wasn't breathing. And he looked at me and said, "Okay, now you have to tell him." He says, and I said, this didn't last very long. He says, "Actually, we've been dream walking for about 2 hours. But for me, it only seemed about 10 minutes. But I'd been outside of my body for 2 hours." And that's when he told me time does work differently when you're dream walking, when you're exploring the spiritual world around you. And then he asked me what I saw and where I went. And I told him about the path of the snakes. And he said those weren't snakes, those were actually spirits. And I perceived them as serpents as I was walking through them. Hey, Paranormal World, just saw you down there. What's up, buddy? He said, but those were spirits. They weren't actually snakes. They were once human, non-human, and inhuman spirits, but he had some other weird way of explaining it to me. But he said that's how I perceived them when I was walking down the path. He said, "Where did you go? Where did the path lead? Where did you go?" I said I described to him the house, and I told him about my little spirit companion that was there, and I saw my younger self there. He said I was exploring and during my dream walk, I was exploring my past. He said when you dream walk, the past, present, and future are all connected. They're all one. It's both linear and non-linear at the same time when you're dream walking. And I told him that my little spirit girl could see me and what she said to me. He said spirits like that exist outside of time. And being a spirit, she could see me. And that for her, all times were the same times. All times were happening at the same time for her. That was my first experience in dream walking. Well, I got excited because it was an amazing rush for me. So over the years, I got the recipe from him on how to mix it. It wasn't hard to do. It's still not hard to do. But over the years, I continued um, to do solo dream walking and exploring the spiritual world. I enjoyed actually going to cemeteries and entering an alternate state in cemeteries and dream walk through the cemeteries. Because when you're dream walking, if there are any spirits that are close to you or close to the location in which you push your body out, um, you're able to perceive them. Because when you're spirit walking, your spirit, your soul, um, is running at a different frequency than what it was when it was inside of your body. And this vibration, this frequency, is very similar to the frequency and vibration of once human, non-human, and inhuman spirits. So they are able to perceive them, you're able to interact with them, and they can see you and they can interact with you. I have to say though, this is the dangerous part about it. When you're dream walking and you run across a inhospitable spirit, for example, uh, if you look at some of my previous videos, you'll hear me talking about Old City Cemetery, and I may even make mention of a monkey cigar tree that grows at the cemetery. But it is a tree that looks dead year round, but it's not dead. It still flowers. It still produces monkey cigar seed pods. But it's this huge gnarled tree that it's most of its roots, these huge roots, are above ground. And the roots actually run into a grave there. And the person that's buried at this grave was, as the legend had it, and what people talk about it, as I say, as legend have it, the old man that was buried there was incredibly wealthy, but he was fond of killing prostitutes. Um, and he got away with it from the town that he was in because he was a man of great means and great wealth and great notoriety. And since he was only killing prostitutes, people would turn their head the other way, or he would pay them to turn their head the other way. And one instance, I went to his grave because people would always talk about how they would see this apparition of this evil man um, walking, pacing around this giant gnarled monkey cigar tree that reached into his grave and grew into his grave. And I wanted to see him. So I mixed, the tea. And just to let you know, the more you do it, when you use the tea method, the more you do it, the easier it is for you to leave your body, and the faster you leave your body when you do it. So I was sitting on his grave, actually, when I did it. And when I pushed my way out, it was the first time that I was truly terrified about where I was at. The sky was black, but in the horizon, it was all tinted red and orange around me. Like something was on fire in the distance, and it barely illuminated everything around me. And everything around me was very gray with, that was tinted slightly in red. And I looked in front of me, and there was this old man dressed in clothes that dated probably around the early 1900s, 1920 at the most. Very well to do. He was bald. He had a beard and a mustache. Um, and he wore, you know, little round glasses, over his eyes. Had a number of had a pinky ring on and multiple rings on his other hand. Dressed incredibly to the hilt. He looked alive to me. He looked alive. Except for one thing about him, that behind the glasses where his eyes should be at, um, there were just these little bright flickering. It was like somebody caught a firefly on fire and put it where his eyes should be at. That was the color that were in his eye sockets. This burning firefly that was in each eye. And I looked at him and I said, I know you. And he got this really big grin that was too big for his face. It's like his smile split all the way up to his ears and showed and had too many teeth. And he reached down beside him and he picked up an axe. And he started walking towards me with that axe, with that smile on his face the entire time, the demented smile. And right when he pulled the axe back to hit me with it, I sat right back down in my body immediately. When the axe was coming down, I sat flat down in my body. And I woke up and I came to. I was back in this world again. And I realized once again that while I was out of my body, I wasn't breathing anymore. So when I sat back down in my body, a big gasp of air. And I felt something hit me in the shoulder when that happened. I had a sharp pain in my shoulder. And I got this, and lifted up my shirt, and I had this massive bruise, like somebody hit me with something hard and heavy on my shoulder, as hard as they could. Nearly breaking the skin. And I realized that the tales and legends of this murderous millionaire that was buried in that old cemetery were true, and I had seen him, and I had never been more terrified in my life. I got my ass up, and I ball jacked it back to my car, and I got the hell out of that cemetery as fast as I could. Um, I would go on to. Oh, it was nuts. It was terrifying, actually. I got to see this bastard, and he could see me. And that's one of the bad things when you dream walk, is that, again, the things that exist in the spiritual world can interact with you, um, meaning they can hurt you. They can definitely hurt you when you're out of your body. They can hurt you really badly. Um, he could see me quite well, and he saw me as fresh meat, and he was going to take me down, period. But I got away from the bastard. Probably one of the few people to ever probably get away from him when he was alive back in the day. But in death, I was get away from him. I would go on to use dream walking to explore past events, to explore future events, to explore the present around me. Um, Once I learned how to communicate, but with dream walking, as when I finally did become a Hongan, a voodoo priest, I used dream walking to be able to communicate better and easier with Loa. I was able to see them, communicate and interact with them, and receive blessings from them, and receive information from them with the dream walking. I also started using it. I don't call it a paranormal investigation. It was out of paranormal curiosity. I would use it at places that were considered to be haunted. Um, you'll see some of my earlier videos where I was talking about my ordeal at Goblin House. I never did a follow-up video about sealing them away. But the thing involved was a paranormal predator. It's called a fetch. And they followed me back to my house back here on the farm. and they began to terrorize me and my family. But I was able to see them by dream walking. I was able to see them and locate them and see where they were entering my house in, and I was able to seal them off from my house. And they were no longer being able to pull strength from our fear and being able to exist to continue to terrorize us. And they finally gave up and left. But I was able to locate them. I was able to locate them through dream walking. The points of the house in which they were accessing my house at. Fetches are absolutely terrifying. You're right, Super Horror Show. I wish I had finished that up, but I didn't expect there would be more than one fetch at the Goblin House. But there was more than one fetch, as my witchy friend told me when I talked to her and told her about how I sealed off a fetch. I felt all, I felt all Ghostbustery. I sealed off a fetch. She looked at me and put her hand on my shoulder and she says, "Mike, you do realize they, they work in packs. There was more than one." And my blood just ran cold when she said that to me. And that's when I realized that they had followed me. And I began to realize they had followed me because I had pissed them off. And they were starting to, again, terrorize my family and terrorize me until we were able to deal with them. And until I was able to deal with them. I also use dream walking to communicate, to try to communicate on the spiritual plane with the what some people would call Bigfoot. I call the hairy assholes that live in my mountains. When at the height of their aggressiveness towards me and my family and my farm, that I use dream walking to try to communicate with them. They were taken aback by it. I didn't think I was going to do that, and I kind of threw them for a loop for a moment. And then they became a little bit more aggressive afterwards, after I tried doing that. So I didn't do it anymore. Now, I got to the point where I could dream walk really, really well, and I no longer needed chemical inducement to be able to do it, the tea to be able to do it, because I was able to refine the tea and find some of the more ancient recipes throughout the world and to concoct the teas with. But I was finally able to start doing it. And sometimes I involuntarily dream walk, push myself out of my body before I know what's happening. I'm out. It can be terrifying, unnerving. Now, I do encourage people, if it's something you ever want to give it a try, make sure you are working with somebody who has done it and they're able to do it safely so they can teach you how to do it safely. It's not for everybody. It's absolutely terrifying. Make sure you don't have any allergic reaction to any of the ingredients, any of the teas they may offer you. And again, if snake venom is used, like I was talking about earlier, make sure you don't have any, bleeding gums or ulcers in your stomach or lesions in your intestines or in your digestive tract, because as soon as you drink the concoction, more likely you've poisoned yourself then and you will die. Because the venom will, again, leach into your bloodstream and it will kill you. Well, guys, I hope you had fun tonight tuning in. I had fun talking with everybody about dream walking. I might do a part 2 to this because there's a lot more that I want to talk about. But it's been a weird fucking night here at the Naked Bigfoot's house. If you've been playing the drinking game, please do not drink and drive. Please do not drink and drive. You really do need to catch up there, Super Horror Show. There's some neat things I talked about earlier, and if anybody who just tuned in late, you really should watch this from the beginning. I did digress from the topic tonight, and it was something interesting is going on right now that I find interesting. It's going on right now, and it started happening during the live tonight. But as always, I do appreciate you so much for tuning in to What the Fuck Paranormal Chat with a Naked Bigfoot. Please subscribe. Please hit like or dislike if you didn't like what you saw. Please leave a comment. You can follow me on Twitter at VoodooMan3. I look forward to seeing everybody at the next live, which will be next Wednesday. And of course, we do them every Wednesday and Thursday. Well, I do it every Wednesday and Thursday, as always. Have a great night. Stay safe. And go out and explore this beautiful, supernatural, magical world that we live in. But please do it safely and sanely. Have a great night, everyone.